Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned after years of talking to people about relationships, love, and the complicated ways our hearts and minds work. If a man is on your mind all the time, I want you to understand that it's not just a random coincidence. It's not just boredom, and it's definitely not something that happens without reason. When someone lives in your thoughts constantly, something is already happening on the other side, whether you see it or not, whether he says it or not, and whether he even understands it or not. When someone constantly occupies your thoughts, it is rarely a random or meaningless occurrence because the human mind does not repeatedly return to the same person without an emotional trigger or psychological reason. Our thoughts are shaped by what impacts us, what intrigues us, and what stirs something within us that feels different from the ordinary. When a man is on your mind again and again, it often means there has already been an exchange of emotional energy between you and him, even if no direct confession has been made, and even if the connection has never been openly discussed. People underestimate how powerful silent emotional exchanges can be. A glance, a conversation, a shared laugh, or even a brief moment of understanding can create a mental imprint strong enough to replay itself in your thoughts long after the moment has passed. That imprint is not created by accident. It forms because something about him resonated with something inside you. Psychologically, the mind is drawn to what feels meaningful, unfinished, or emotionally stimulating. When someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, it usually means your subconscious has marked that person as significant. Significance does not always mean love or deep attachment right away. Sometimes it means curiosity, fascination, or emotional recognition. Your mind is trying to process why that individual stands out from everyone else you encounter. The repetition of his presence in your thoughts is your brain's way of analyzing, understanding, and emotionally sorting the experience of knowing him. This process often happens automatically, without your permission, because emotions do not wait for logic before they begin working. At the same time, emotional energy between two people is rarely one-sided. When you feel mentally pulled towards someone, it often indicates that there has already been some level of mutual awareness established. Human interactions are dynamic exchanges, not isolated events. When two people interact and one feels something, the other has usually felt some shift as well, even if it is subtle. That shift might show itself through small changes in behavior, attention, tone of voice, or the way he reacts when you are around. Many men do not immediately verbalize what they feel, but they still experience emotional responses internally. Just because he has not said anything does not mean nothing is happening inside him. Silence can often be a sign of processing rather than absence of feeling. There is also a neurological element involved in why someone stays on your mind. When a person triggers a strong emotional reaction, your brain releases chemicals associated with attention and memory, making it easier for thoughts of that person to return repeatedly. This is part of how attraction and emotional bonding begin. The mind starts associating that individual with stimulation, interest, and emotional reward, which makes it naturally revisit thoughts of him. It is similar to how a powerful song gets stuck in your head. Your brain keeps replaying it because it created a strong impression. In the case of a person, the impression is even stronger because it involves emotions, imagination, and possibility all at once. Another important aspect is that constant thoughts about someone often reflect an intuitive awareness that something meaningful could develop. Your mind is not only replaying the past interactions you've had with him, but also imagining potential future ones. It is exploring possibilities, scenarios, and interpretations, trying to understand what he might feel, what he might think, and what could happen next. This mental activity shows that your emotional awareness has already recognized him as someone who matters in your inner world. And when someone matters internally, it usually means they have already made some kind of impact externally. Men, in particular, may respond to emotional connections in quieter ways. Instead of openly discussing their feelings, they may observe more, think more, and take their time understanding what they feel. While you are thinking about him, he may also be thinking about you, wondering why you stand out in his mind compared to others. He may replay your conversations, analyze your words, or notice details about you that he did not notice before. These internal reactions are part of how emotional interest develops for many men. They may not announce it, but internally they are experiencing shifts that mirror the mental attention you are giving them. Constantly thinking about someone can also be a sign that your intuition senses a connection that logic has not yet explained. Intuition often picks up on subtle cues such as body language, tone, eye contact, and emotional atmosphere long before your conscious mind understands them. Your thoughts keep returning to him because some part of you recognizes that there is something worth paying attention to. It is your mind's way of saying that this person is not ordinary in your story, that he represents something emotionally significant. Whether that significance turns into a relationship, a lesson, or simply a meaningful memory. In many cases, this persistent mental presence reflects the beginning stage of emotional attachment. Attachment does not appear suddenly. It builds gradually through attention, curiosity, and repeated thought. Every time your mind returns to him, it reinforces his importance in your emotional landscape. That reinforcement strengthens the connection you feel, making him seem more relevant, more interesting, and more emotionally vivid. This is why someone who occupies your thoughts frequently can start to feel like they are already part of your life, even if your interactions with them have been limited. What all of this shows is that when a man is on your mind all the time, it usually means something is already in motion beneath the surface of both your awareness and his. Thoughts are rarely random when they repeat with intensity. They are signals, indicators that your emotions have recognized a presence worth noticing. Whether that presence leads to something deeper or simply teaches you something about yourself, the fact that he lives in your thoughts is itself evidence that an emotional current has already begun flowing between you and him, quietly, invisibly, and powerfully shaping how you feel. When your thoughts keep returning to the same man again and again, it often signals that there is a psychological or emotional connection forming beneath the surface, even if nothing has been spoken aloud and no clear relationship has been defined. The human mind is naturally selective about what it holds on to. Every day we encounter dozens of people, conversations, and experiences, yet only a few remain in our thoughts long after they are gone. The ones that stay are usually the ones that triggered something meaningful inside us, whether that meaning is curiosity, emotional resonance, admiration, or an unexplainable sense of familiarity. When one person stands out enough to occupy your mind repeatedly, it is rarely accidental. It suggests that your subconscious has identified him as emotionally significant, and that recognition is often the beginning of a deeper psychological bond. A strong mental focus on someone can develop when your inner world senses alignment with theirs. Alignment does not necessarily mean you are the same or that everything matches perfectly. Sometimes it means there is a balance of differences that feels intriguing or complementary. Your mind becomes fascinated because it is trying to understand why that person feels different from others. It replays conversations, analyzes expressions, recalls details, and imagines possibilities, all in an effort to interpret what your emotions are sensing. This constant reflection is not a sign of weakness or distraction. It is a natural process your mind uses to explore emotional connections. The more your thoughts return to him, the more your brain reinforces the idea that he matters, strengthening the sense that there is something there worth paying attention to. At a psychological level, repeated thoughts about someone can indicate that your emotional awareness has detected potential significance before your logical mind is caught up. Emotions often recognize patterns faster than reason does. You might not consciously understand why he stands out to you, but your feelings have already noticed qualities, behaviors, or energies that resonate with you. This is why you might find yourself thinking about him unexpectedly, even when you are busy or focused on something else. The thought appears because your subconscious is still processing the emotional impression he left behind. It is trying to make sense of what you felt in his presence and what that feeling might mean for you. There is also an element of anticipation involved when someone occupies your thoughts so consistently. Your mind does not just replay past interactions, it begins to imagine future ones. It wonders what he might say next time, how he might react in different situations, or what it would feel like to spend more time together. This imaginative process is a sign that your emotional system is investing in the possibility of connection. It is preparing scenarios, exploring outcomes, and testing emotional responses, all without you consciously deciding to do so. This is one of the ways attraction quietly grows. It does not always arrive with a dramatic realization. Sometimes it develops through these small, repeated moments of thought that slowly build emotional familiarity. When a psychological connection is forming, it often creates a sense of mental magnetism. You may notice that certain songs remind you of him, certain places make you think of him, or random moments trigger memories of things he said. These associations happen because your brain has linked him to emotional stimulation. The stronger the emotional impression, the stronger the associations become. Over time, this mental linking can make it feel as though he is present in your life, even when he is not physically there. That feeling is a sign that your mind has already given him a place in your inner emotional landscape. It is important to understand that this type of mental focus does not always mean you are imagining something that does not exist. In many cases, it reflects subtle signals that pass between you and him during your interactions. Humans communicate far more through tone, body language, timing, and attention than they do through words alone. Your mind may have picked up on small cues that suggested interest, curiosity, or emotional openness from him. Even if those cues were faint, your subconscious can recognize them and store them as meaningful data. Later, those stored impressions resurface as recurring thoughts, prompting you to keep reflecting on him. Another factor that strengthens this mental presence is emotional curiosity. When someone intrigues you, your mind naturally wants to learn more about them. Curiosity is powerful because it keeps your attention engaged. You may find yourself wondering what he is thinking, what he feels about you, or what his life is like beyond what you have seen. This curiosity feeds the cycle of thought, making him return to your mind repeatedly. The more curious you feel, the more mentally present he becomes, and the more present he becomes, the more your emotional connection seems to grow. This repeated mental attention can also signal that a subtle emotional bond has already started forming. Bonds do not always begin with grand gestures or dramatic confessions. Often they begin quietly, through attention, interest, and reflection. Each time your mind returns to him, it strengthens the thread of connection you feel. That thread may still be invisible on the outside, but internally it is becoming more defined. Your awareness is slowly acknowledging that this person has touched something within you that others have not, and that recognition is what keeps drawing your thoughts back to him again and again. When a man is constantly on your mind, one important thing to understand is that men often experience emotions just as deeply as women do, but they are not always taught or encouraged to express those feelings openly. From an early age, many men learn to process emotions internally rather than verbally. They may feel strongly, think intensely, and reflect deeply, yet still appear calm or silent on the outside. This difference in expression can create misunderstandings, especially when someone assumes that silence means indifference. In reality, a man can be emotionally affected, mentally engaged, and internally focused on someone without showing obvious outward signs. So when you find yourself thinking about him all the time, it's entirely possible that he is experiencing something similar in his own inner world. Even if he has not spoken about it, men often deal with emotions by analyzing them privately. Instead of immediately talking about how they feel, they may replay interactions in their minds, examine what was said, and try to interpret what it meant. They might think about your tone of voice, your expressions, or the way you reacted to something they did. This mental reviewing process is how many men make sense of their feelings. It allows them to understand what they are experiencing before they decide whether or not to act on it. So while it may seem like nothing is happening on his side, there may actually be a great deal of thought and emotional processing taking place quietly. His silence may not be emptiness. It may be contemplation. Another reason men may not immediately express feelings is that they often want certainty before revealing emotional interest. Many prefer to be sure of what they feel and what they want before they speak about it. This means they may spend time observing, learning, and reflecting. They might watch how you behave, notice how you treat others, or pay attention to how you respond to them specifically. During this period, they can become mentally focused on you without showing it outwardly. If you are thinking about him often, there is a strong chance he is also noticing you more closely than you realize. He may remember details you mentioned casually, recall stories you told, or recognize patterns in your personality that he finds interesting or admirable. Men also tend to attach meaning to emotional experiences that stand out from their routine. If meeting you or interacting with you created a feeling that was different from what they usually experience, that difference can stay in their thoughts. They might not label it immediately as attraction or affection, but they recognize that something about you affected them. That recognition alone can make them mentally return to thoughts of you. They may wonder why you stood out, what made the interaction memorable, or why your presence lingered in their mind longer than others. This curiosity can quietly grow into emotional investment, even before they consciously admit it. Another aspect of how men process feelings is that they often express emotions through actions rather than words. Instead of saying how they feel, they might show it by paying attention, being helpful, or making small efforts to be around you. These actions can sometimes be subtle, especially in the early stages of interest. A man might not openly confess his thoughts, but he may still find ways to stay connected to you, to learn about you, or to create opportunities to interact. If you are constantly thinking about him, it is possible that your mind is responding to these small signals that he has already given, even if they were quiet and understated. It is also important to recognize that emotional depth in men does not always look dramatic. Society often portrays strong feelings as something loud and obvious, but in reality, many emotions develop quietly. A man can feel drawn to someone without making grand gestures or bold declarations. He might simply carry that feeling internally, letting it grow slowly as he becomes more certain of what it means. During this time, he might think about you when he hears something that reminds him of you, when he passes a place you once mentioned, or when he recalls a conversation that stayed with him. These small mental moments can be just as meaningful as spoken words. Sometimes men hesitate to express feelings because they want to protect themselves from vulnerability. Opening up emotionally can feel risky, especially if they are unsure how the other person feels. So they may wait, observe, and think, allowing their emotions to develop privately until they feel safe enough to reveal them. While they are in this stage, they can still be emotionally affected by you. They may care more than they show, notice more than they admit, and feel more than they say. If he is on your mind constantly, it may be because your intuition senses that he is emotionally engaged with you in ways he has not yet put into words. What this shows is that a man's quietness does not mean absence of feeling. Often it means depth of processing. When someone keeps appearing in your thoughts, it can reflect a shared emotional atmosphere that exists even without conversation about it. He may be thinking, reflecting, and feeling in his own way, just as you are in yours. The difference is simply in how those feelings are expressed, not in whether they exist. When your attention keeps returning to the same man again and again, it is important to understand that attention itself is a powerful emotional force, because whatever you consistently focus on naturally begins to feel more significant in your life. The mind assigns importance based on repetition. The more often you think about someone, the more your brain begins to categorize that person as meaningful, memorable, and emotionally relevant. This is not something you consciously decide. It happens automatically as part of how human psychology works. Attention acts like a spotlight, and whatever stands in that light starts to appear larger, clearer, and more impactful than everything else around it. So when a man occupies your thoughts frequently, your mind is essentially telling you that he has already crossed a certain threshold of importance within your emotional world. What makes attention so powerful is that it gradually shapes attachment. Attachment rarely forms instantly. Instead, it develops through repeated moments of awareness. Each time your thoughts return to him, you strengthen a mental pathway associated with his presence. Over time, that pathway becomes easier for your mind to access, which is why he may seem to pop into your thoughts without effort. This repetition reinforces emotional familiarity, and familiarity often creates comfort. Even if you have not spent much time together, the fact that he exists so often in your thoughts can make him feel close to you. That sense of closeness is created internally, but it can feel just as real as physical proximity. Another aspect of attention is that it encourages emotional investment. When your mind repeatedly focuses on someone, you begin to notice more about them, even in memory. You recall the way they spoke, the expressions they made, or the details they shared. These recollections deepen your sense of knowing them, and the more you feel like you know someone, the more connected you tend to feel. This connection can develop quietly, without dramatic events or obvious milestones. It grows through simple mental revisits, through the mind replaying moments and reflecting on them. In this way, attention becomes the soil in which emotional attachment takes root and begins to grow. What many people do not realize is that attention often works in both directions. Human interactions are rarely one-sided experiences. When you focus strongly on someone, it is often because something about your interaction with them created a noticeable impression. That impression did not form in isolation. It came from a shared moment, a shared conversation, or a shared emotional atmosphere. Because of that shared origin, there is a strong possibility that he also felt something during those moments. He may not be thinking about you with the same frequency or intensity, but the fact that you are thinking about him repeatedly suggests that there was enough emotional energy in your interaction to leave a mark. Emotional impressions tend to travel both ways, even if they do so unevenly. Distance or silence does not necessarily weaken this kind of connection. In some cases, absence can actually intensify attention. When someone is not physically present, the mind sometimes compensates by bringing them into thoughts more often. It fills in the gap by imagining conversations, recalling memories, or wondering what they might be doing. This mental activity can make the emotional presence of that person feel even stronger than when they were physically around. Silence can have a similar effect. When there are unanswered questions or unspoken feelings, the mind keeps returning to the person in an attempt to understand what remains unresolved. That repeated return strengthens the sense that the connection matters. Attention also has a way of shaping perception. The more you think about someone, the more your mind begins to notice anything related to them. You might start recognizing similarities between them and characters in stories, hear songs that remind you of them, or interpret small coincidences as meaningful connections. This does not mean you are imagining things. It means your mind has prioritized that person as emotionally relevant. So it naturally highlights anything associated with them. Your awareness becomes tuned to their presence, even indirectly. This heightened awareness is another sign that attention has already begun transforming into attachment. Emotional focus can also create anticipation. When someone stays on your mind, you may find yourself wondering when you will see them again, what they might say next, or how they might react in future situations. This anticipation is a form of emotional investment because it shows that your thoughts are not only centered on the past, but also reaching toward the future. Your mind is exploring possibilities, imagining outcomes, and mentally preparing for interactions that have not even happened yet. That forward look and attention is often one of the earliest signs that a connection is beginning to matter on a deeper level. It is worth noting that attention is not something that can be forced or easily redirected. You cannot simply command your mind to think about someone repeatedly unless there is already a reason it wants to. The persistence of your thoughts about him suggests that he has triggered something within you that your mind considers important. That importance might come from the way he made you feel, the impression he left, or the sense of curiosity he inspired. Whatever the source, the result is the same. Your attention keeps returning to him because your emotional system has already decided that he stands out from the rest. When a man is constantly on your mind, one of the strongest possibilities is that he is also experiencing curiosity about you, even if he has not openly shown it. Curiosity is one of the earliest and most powerful emotional responses that can develop between two people because it begins quietly, without pressure, without labels, and without the need for immediate action. It often starts the moment someone notices something different, something intriguing, or something that does not fit into their usual expectations. When a man becomes curious about a woman, his mind starts returning to her in subtle ways. He may not even recognize it as attraction at first. Instead, it feels like interest, fascination, or a quiet desire to understand her better. This type of curiosity can be strong enough to create a mental connection that grows over time, even without constant interaction. Curiosity has a way of pulling attention back again and again because the mind naturally wants to solve what it does not fully understand. If something about you left him wondering, questioning, or intrigued, that unanswered feeling can stay with him. He might replay moments you shared, not because he is trying to analyze you in a critical way, but because his mind is searching for insight. He may think about what you meant when you said something, why you reacted a certain way, or what your personality is like beyond what he has seen so far. This quiet mental exploration is often how emotional interest develops for many men. They become mentally engaged before they become emotionally expressive, and they become emotionally expressive only after they feel mentally certain. When someone is curious about you, they tend to notice more than they let on. He might observe small details about you that others overlook, like the way you phrase your thoughts, the way your mood shifts in different situations, or the things that make you laugh without hesitation. These details may seem insignificant on the surface, but to a curious mind they become pieces of a puzzle. The more pieces he notices, the more his curiosity grows, and the more his mind returns to you as he tries to understand the full picture of who you are. Curiosity does not rush, it lingers. It gives someone a reason to keep thinking, keep wondering, and keep paying attention even when they are not physically around you. Another powerful aspect of curiosity is that it creates emotional anticipation. When a man is curious about a woman, he often starts imagining future conversations or interactions. He might wonder what you would say about certain topics, how you would react to certain situations, or what it would feel like to spend more time with you. This anticipation can become a quiet form of emotional investment because he is mentally including you in his future thoughts. He may not voice these thoughts, but internally he is exploring possibilities. The mind does not usually imagine future moments with someone unless there is already some level of interest or fascination present. Curiosity can also make someone more attentive than usual. A man who is intrigued by you may listen more closely when you speak, remember things you mentioned in passing, or notice patterns in your behavior. He may not point out that he remembers these things, but they stay stored in his memory because they matter to him. Attention like this is rarely random. People tend to remember details about those who capture their interest. If you find yourself thinking about him often, it may be because you subconsciously sensed that he was paying attention to you in a way that felt different from others. That subtle awareness can leave a lasting impression on your mind, making him return to your thoughts repeatedly. Curiosity also tends to deepen rather than fade, especially when there is limited information. When someone does not fully understand you yet, their mind keeps returning to you because it wants more insight. This is why mystery can be so powerful in human connection. Not knowing everything about someone can actually increase interest because the unknown invites imagination. If a man is curious about you, he may find himself wondering about your life, your experiences, your opinions, and your feelings, even when he has not asked directly. That wondering keeps you present in his thoughts, just as your own curiosity about him may keep him present in yours. It is important to realize that curiosity is often the first stage of deeper emotional development. Before affection, before attachment, and before love, there is usually curiosity. It is the spark that starts the process. Without curiosity, interest rarely grows. When curiosity is present, however, it can gradually transform into admiration, emotional investment, and eventually genuine care. This transformation happens slowly and naturally, often without either person noticing exactly when the shift occurred. One day he is simply curious about you, and later he realizes he cares about what you think, how you feel, and what happens to you. The presence of curiosity means that something about you has already made an impression strong enough to stay in his awareness. People do not remain curious about someone unless that person has stirred something within them. Whether it is your personality, your energy, your perspective, or the way you made him feel, Something about you has given his mind a reason to return to thoughts of you. That mental return is a sign that your presence has already affected him in some way, even if he has not expressed it yet. Curiosity is quiet, but it is powerful, and when it exists between two people, it often means that a deeper connection is already beginning to form beneath the surface. When a man is constantly on your mind, another important thing that may already be happening is that he has developed a level of emotional awareness about you, even if he has not spoken about it or shown it in obvious ways. Emotional awareness is different from attraction at first glance, because attraction can be instant and surface level, while awareness develops more quietly and deeply. It begins when someone recognizes that another person has affected them internally. A man may not immediately understand what he feels, but he can sense that your presence changed something in his mood, his thoughts, or his attention. That subtle shift is often the first sign that you matter to him more than he realizes. Emotional awareness does not need dramatic moments to begin. Sometimes it starts with something as simple as noticing that he feels slightly different when you are around compared to when you are not. When someone becomes emotionally aware of another person, they start to recognize that the other individual holds a certain influence over their inner state. He might notice that he feels more alert when you speak, more curious when you share your thoughts, or more thoughtful after spending time with you. These reactions may be small, but they stand out because they are different from his usual emotional patterns. People naturally pay attention to anything that changes how they feel, and when a particular person consistently creates that change, the mind begins to mark that person as significant. This recognition can happen quietly, without him labeling it or discussing it. He might simply sense that you affect him, even if he cannot yet explain why or how. Emotional awareness also means he may be paying attention to how you feel, not just how he feels. When someone starts to matter to us, we become more observant of their emotions. He might watch your expressions, listen carefully to your tone, or notice when your mood shifts. This attentiveness often happens unconsciously. He may not realize that he is doing it, but his mind is gathering information about you because on some level, he cares about understanding you. The more he notices, the more aware he becomes of your emotional presence in his life. That awareness can make him think about you even when you are not around, because his mind continues processing the impressions you left behind. Another sign of emotional awareness is when someone begins to reflect on their own behavior around you. A man who is affected by you might think back on conversations you had and wonder if he said the right thing or if he could have expressed himself better. He may replay moments in his mind, not out of insecurity, but out of interest and concern. This reflection shows that he values your perception of him. People rarely analyze their behavior for the sake of someone who means nothing to them. If he is mentally revisiting interactions with you, it often means your opinion has started to matter to him, even if he has not admitted that to himself yet. Emotional awareness can also create a sense of mental presence. Even when you are not physically near him, he may still feel aware of you in a subtle way. Something might remind him of you, such as a phrase you once said, a topic you discussed, or a shared moment you experienced together. These reminders are signs that you have left an impression strong enough to stay in his mind. The mind tends to hold on to people who create emotional impact, and that impact becomes part of how we experience our daily thoughts. If he is emotionally aware of you, you may appear in his thoughts naturally without effort, just as he appears in yours. Another aspect of this awareness is that he may begin to consider how his actions affect you. When someone does not matter to us, we rarely think about how our behavior influences them. But when someone becomes emotionally significant, we start to care about their reactions and feelings. He might hesitate before saying something that could upset you, or he might feel pleased when he sees that something he did made you smile. This sensitivity is a sign that he recognizes your emotional presence in his life. It means you are no longer just another person in his environment. You are someone whose feelings he subconsciously values. Emotional awareness often grows quietly because many men are not accustomed to expressing emotions openly. Instead of talking about what they feel, they may observe, think, and process internally. He might not tell you that you have an effect on him, but internally he knows it. He may not describe his feelings, but he senses that they exist. This quiet awareness can be powerful because it develops without pressure or expectation. It allows emotions to form naturally without forcing them into words before they are ready. During this stage, he might simply feel that you are important in a way he cannot yet explain, and that feeling can keep you present in his thoughts even when he is focused on other things. Sometimes emotional awareness also brings a sense of responsibility. When someone realizes that another person affects them emotionally, they may begin to feel more thoughtful about how they interact with that person. He might become more careful with his words, more considerate in his actions, or more attentive to your reactions. This does not necessarily mean he is consciously trying to impress you. It often means he has recognized on some level that you matter. That recognition changes how he behaves, even if he cannot clearly articulate why. All of this shows that when a man is on your mind constantly, it may be because there is already a quiet emotional recognition happening within him as well. He may be aware of your impact, aware of your presence, and aware that you hold a certain space in his thoughts. That awareness might still be unspoken, undefined, and subtle, but it exists in the background of his mind, influencing how he thinks, how he notices, and how he feels whenever you come to mind.